Hello, good evening, everyone. We called our meeting to order in our closed executive session so we can begin our meeting. I'll go ahead and start with our superintendent comments. Dr. Adderhold.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to pause and recognize that this is Teacher Appreciation Week. So I want to just acknowledge and thank our educators and recognize them for their faithful service to our students and their colleagues, the families of West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District. Thank you to our teachers for creating a community that sees our students for their unique contributions and gifts that is connected to their students and their colleagues, that supports students' individual academic and social emotional growth, and that works to create a school community that is proud of our organization's mission, vision, values, and purpose. I also want to pause and thank our nurses, because tomorrow is National School Nurses Day, which is a day set aside to recognize school nurses across the nation. It was established in 1972 to foster a better understanding of the role of school nurses, and if the pandemic hasn't brought awareness to the importance of school nurses, I don't know what else will. So a deep thanks and appreciation to our school nurses, as tomorrow is the day of recognition for National School Nurses. And so on behalf of the Board of Education Administration, the school community, again, thank you to our teachers and our nurses. And just this week, we announced our Educators of the Year, and I just want to take a moment to recognize the building representatives for the 2023 West Windsor-Plainsboro Educators of the Year. For Dutch Neck Elementary School, Ms. Nicole Signor. Over at Maurice Hawk, Melanie Edmonds. Town Center, Mr. Richard Knobloch. At Wyckoff Elementary School, Melissa Collins. At Millstone River, Barbara Lally. At Village School, Robert Hartley. At Community Middle School, Christopher Pisano. At Grover Middle School, Anne-Marie Wadlick. At High School North, Eric Becker. And at High School South, Lisa Brown. Congratulations to our 2023 Educators of the Year.
So, thank you, Dr. Adderhold. So next up, we have our student representative comments, but actually before we ask our student reps up to the stand, I just wanted to say a few words. So this evening will be our student reps' last meeting with us for the 2022-2023 school year. So it's been a pleasure hearing the student rep reports each month, and we appreciate their dedication to the position of BOE student representatives. So I'd like to say a few words about the student representatives we've had this year. So for High School South this year, we began the school year with senior representatives Quinn Ferry and Isabella Kolitsas. Quinn Ferry is the captain of the boys soccer and baseball teams and also an active student council representative. Quinn is also a huge leader in volunteerism outside of school. He can be seen around the community coaching youth basketball, which allows him to have a positive influence on our future Pirates. Isabella Kolitsas is West Point bound after her graduation from South in June. Bella is an active student council representative and a leader who engages in many meetings with South administration, such as pre- and post-planning for the larger student council meetings. In addition to her student council duties, Bella is the goalie for the South girls lacrosse team and a leader of spirit teams for the fall and winter seasons and pep rallies. Because of Quinn and Bella's student athlete schedules, this spring, we welcomed South Juniors Eliana Du and Maya Patel to our meetings as South student representatives. Eliana Du is a former officer from the class of 2024 as a 9th grader and is now an extremely helpful representative on South's student council. She actively engages in meetings and is extremely involved in volunteering, both in and outside of High School South. Maya Patel can be seen around High School South long after school hours, and because she's so involved, Maya is a track and field athlete, student council representative, and is a manager and helper of various sports programs. From High School North, we were joined this year by senior Ria Parikh and junior Mihir Shankar, who are here tonight. Ria Parikh was selected to represent North given her strong bond with the North student body. Her outstanding performance as a liaison, coupled with her role as the Special Assignments Officer on the Student Council Executive Board, has made her a true asset to the school community. Ria is also a member of the South Asian American Student Association and has played a vital role in organizing cultural shows to raise funds for charity. She has also been the vice president of the North Chapter of the Red Cross, successfully planning blood drives that have benefited local hospitals. Ria will graduate from High School North this June and plans to attend Purdue University to study mechanical engineering, so congratulations. Mihir Shankar has served as the Special Assignment Officer on the Student Council Executive Board, where he has displayed exceptional leadership and dedication. He is also a member of the FRC robotics team and played a vital role in building their 2023 robot Pivot. Mihir's passion for engineering and robotics led to his involvement with the Lehigh University robotics community, as well as his mentoring and tutoring work. Mihir also worked as a member of the South Asian American Student Association to create a perfect end-of-school year show. For the 2023-24 school year, Mihir has been appointed Vice President of the Student Council, and we look forward to seeing him continue to excel in his leadership role. So Quinn, Bella, Eliana, Maya, Ria, and Mihir, on behalf of the Board of Education and the WWP community, I thank you for your service and your commitment to not just your schools, but your peers and your community. To Quinn, Bella, and Ria, we look forward to seeing the impact you'll have on the world when you graduate high school next month. And to Eliana, Maya, and Mihir, we hope to welcome you back to our board meetings next year. We wish you all a wonderful end to the 2022-2023 school year and a safe and enjoyable summer break. Thank you all again for joining us this year. We do have some tokens of appreciation for all of you, so I think after your student representative reports, I know those will be the last for tonight, if you can come up and we will hand those to you. So.
Good evening, everyone. We just want to say thank you all for your appreciation. It's been wonderful and such a rewarding experience serving as your High School North student representative. Now, starting off this week throughout the nation, high school students are taking their AP tests. All AP tests will end on Friday, and next week, students who have missed their AP test will make them up. My last test this Thursday, so fingers crossed I do well. On April 27th, High School North had Take Your Child to Work Day. Teachers from across the departments took their children to work to show them what their parents do at work. I know Dr. Dauber took his kids to work that day. They truly saw his experience as a principal. Finally, this month is Pan-Asian American Month, and High School North is celebrating this by showcasing the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It is a spectacular movie about interdimensional travels, which stars a predominantly Asian cast. Now to hand it off to Ria.
To start off, we'd like to say thank you to the High School North PTSA for the senior luncheon 2 weeks ago. The seniors really appreciate the effort that went into the event. College Decision Day was May 1st. Seniors came to school showing off their future school spirit. I would like to say good luck to all the seniors in their future endeavors. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Big thank you to all of our teachers. We really appreciate all of your support and efforts in providing us with a good education. And lastly, Senior Prom is being held on June 2nd at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. The seniors are all very excited and looking forward to it. And to end off, thank you to the board for allowing us the opportunity to provide student input and share our thoughts. It's been a great year. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for your kind words. They were really sweet. I've had a really enjoyable time being a student representative for South. Okay, so I guess to start off, our Spirit Week was a huge success. So unfortunately, our pep rally was canceled due to weather. So quite literally raining on our parade. But it will happen in the coming weeks. 2 Fridays ago, South and North boys volleyball teams faced off against each other in a highly anticipated match, the last match of the season, I think, in which the two schools will face off against each other. And South emerged as the victor, but of course we all expected that. So on the 19th and 20th, South's Debate Club is holding their big question tournament, which they have annually, and it's open to both middle schoolers and high schoolers. And in this tournament, students are going to sign up to debate, should we judge people on their actions or intentions? And to honor Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, South's Library is holding a poetry read aloud during select periods on May 30th and 31st. Student Council is also holding a scavenger hunt that will be happening on May 20th, and it looks like there's plenty of interest for that so far, so I'm excited to see how that goes. Student Council election slating will be held next Monday at our weekly meeting, and our actual elections will happen around June. And as a whole, it's election season for all student-run organizations. So yeah. I guess also senior prom season is in session. So votes have been cast for the dance's theme, and the result is soon to be announced. And finally, as Mahir said, the students of both North and South have been in AP testing for the past 2 weeks, and South peer leaders have held a bake sale for most days in order to raise money and give our students some needed sustenance. So yeah, yeah. Thank you again. I don't know for the words. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sure. Thank you again. We really appreciate it, and good luck to all of you to all of those who are going off to college. So we will miss you. Thanks. Okay, so we'll now move on to the special public hearing and presentation on Policy 2361, acceptable use of computer networks, computers, and resources. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Peter James.
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me out tonight to talk about our acceptable use policy. This is going to be pretty straightforward. Not too many changes right now, just I think some highlights of the policy, the structure of it, and really what it's meant to be. So thank you for the introduction, Ms. Juliana. Again, I'm Peter James, Director of Technology for the district. Please, my email's there. Any questions that come up after this or anything that we need to know, please do send my way, and we will do our best to get you an answer as quickly as we can. Basic components of the acceptable use policy is, and this is what we're going to go through in the slides tonight, just the overall purpose. Really, it does lay out the responsibilities between the district, the user, the community. It lays out kind of our standards, what systems we provide access to, kind of parent notification and the responsibility of our parent group and our community, along with the liability and due process kind of procedures that we take on as a school. So first, and the overall purpose, if I could have one soundbite make it out of this presentation, it's this one. It's that if you are a student or a staff member performing schoolwork, please log into your school account on a school device and do that work. If you are not doing schoolwork, please do not use your school account or school device. That's the basic gist of the entire policy. That'll cover almost everything that we have here, because the whole idea of this is to further the education of our children, it's to further the education of our staff, it's to move everything forward, and that's really done by performing schoolwork with school accounts on school devices. It provides them all the protections that they need, it provides all the resources that they need, it provides all the securities and documentation in place should they be let arrive. Within that, the district has responsibilities. Those responsibilities are to set up individual accounts for all students and staff. When doing schoolwork, please use your account. Maybe I should have specified that I don't want you using somebody else's school account for any of that work. Again, we will provide storage for the digital work that is completed. That's done through Google Drives and Microsoft on-premises H drives. We can get into those details in a moment. Everything complies with federal and state laws. There's plenty of things out there, SIPA, HIPAA, all kinds of rules and regulations that we are following. Again, the details of that we can get into, but it is our goal to make sure that we are following all of those. Again, we continually try to take steps to avoid cyber attacks, monitoring our system. The biggest one is to do training on those who have access to the front door of your house, right? So that is every user account is an entry point into your network. The easiest way in is through email. Spam, phishing are now normal terms that we use in our everyday vocabulary. And we have taken training protocols into phishing ourselves, providing information to students and families about phishing and what that is and what that entails, and really then monitoring our system and providing feedback to the organization as to what we can do to hopefully mitigate and train people to not click on inappropriate links, excuse me. And then again, finally, educate students and staff on safe practices. This is done through our curriculum. This is done through our work with administration. This is done anytime there's an instance that arises. You know, again, we try to be as proactive as we can, but in the ever-evolving field of technology, you sometimes just have to respond and respond appropriately. So that goes back to, again, this school is really, our buildings and our building administrators are really the central part of how we educate staff on, or educate students on safe practices through the curriculum, along with working with our students whenever there's a violation of conduct. It's an oversimplification, but at the same time, kind of easy to say that any of the violations that are happening with technology would be violations if the technology wasn't involved. So you've almost got to handle both sets of this of how was that information accessed, how was it utilized, did the technology change it, in which case was that something in our process, or was that something in the students' workaround to get there, or the staff members' workaround to get to that, and working through those cases. All of that, again, though, goes back to the action. Generally falls into a general breaking of conduct anyway, regardless of the technology being there or not. So again, that just goes back into, we work very closely with school administration, school staff, to make sure that students are aware of what needs to be done, and also resolving any issues that arise when they do. Again, the responsibility of the user. We tried to keep this very simple and to the point. Please manage your own credentials. Make sure that you keep your password secure. If it is ever felt to be not secure, please request a reset and keep the new password secure. The goal, again, is that your schoolwork, your school credentials are yours and to be used for you, not for others. So to keep them secure is the user's responsibility. Standards of use, again, this just goes back to following the law. You know, making sure that we're using the school network, the devices for schoolwork, that our accounts and our devices are all, again, used for schoolwork and to further the education of our students. If your teacher wouldn't think what you were doing is appropriate, don't do that on the school device. If your parent wouldn't think it was appropriate, don't do that on the school device, please. We will say the same thing at school, the same thing at home. We're here to work together with you, and I think that really comes through in the next parts of this. So again, system access that we have, all staff and students have access to the internet through the district. This is a filtered access of the internet. Internet filtering is done in a very dynamic and static way. Both systems are used when we know of a site that is no good and we need to make sure students are not getting there and it has appeared on our network, we will statically block that site specifically. But there's also, because the internet is an evolving and growing place, there are categories that internet sites get tagged with, and those categories are then used to filter sites. So entertainment is a big one that's blocked, you know, and sales. So anytime we've run into problems where museums that we would love to use their content, but they're selling tickets on there. So we have to go in and then individually unblock them for school use because the category of sales and shopping are tagged with those sites, even though it's Museum of Natural History. So personal devices are welcome in our schools on networks. They are not to be plugged in. They are not connected to our secure network. We have an open network that they are allowed to connect to. That open network is not as open as a home open network. It is filtered. The content is barred. The user without credentials has less privileges than the user with credentials. So, you know, I mean, if you want to think about it that way, a kindergarten student, a third grade student, they have credentials. So they probably have more privileges on our open network than somebody walking in off of the street would. And again, we are keeping everything in educational appropriate bins. District staff, may create user accounts for students to access online educational resources. And really that just goes into, as everything evolves, there are times when we need to enter into agreements with third-party vendors to make sure that students have access to educational content. We're continually vetting them for the appropriateness, to make sure they're meeting compliance standards, and to make sure that they're also not sharing information in ways that we would not want our student information shared. At times that does mean we're working with families to understand what their desires are, because sometimes personal desires of what's shared are stricter than maybe where the school would have been or where the laws need to take us, and we'll work with you. So again, the other message in this is, please, if there's a parent with a concern that reaches out to you, ask them to reach out to us. We're happy to work with parents. It's a good part of my job. Notification. This is the public hearing to discuss the acceptable use policy in general terms. Our student handbook covers a lot of this information, and that is, again, signed off by parents annually. And again, that code of conduct is always a good reference point for really just what's acceptable, what's not acceptable. If it wasn't acceptable in the classroom, it's not acceptable on the device. Kind of just some simple working parameters of that. Again, as I shared, always happy to work with parents on any questions or concerns that they have about this. Really looking at, I was working with a parent today on how to make sure they had the information about our school device to block it on their home router, their home network, their home system. I can't do that blocking for you, but at the same time I can provide you with the information so that it is easy for you to do that blocking with some information from your internet provider. So again, all of those things are possible and options that you have, and we love working with people to figure out the steps needed to get there. Liability and due process. This jumps into just very clear, the district assumes no liability for personal electronics. As we said, you can bring it in, you can put it on the open network, but we are not going to take responsibility for that being on there if something happens while you're here or on district and it's your device, that's your device. We cooperate fully with state and local and federal authorities for any reasonable investigation. I do have the viewpoint that not many of my colleagues in the Director of Technology have, where I was an assistant principal in a building, have worked through those situations closely with our local enforcement, have worked closely with our board attorneys at times to make sure that we are following those guidelines, we are providing appropriate information, and when not appropriate, going through the right channels to make sure that we do things right and don't overshare when it's not appropriate. Again, going back to student infractions within the policy, this is where the schools come in. Really, we work with administration to provide them the details of what happened on the device or to the device or with the device. And then they take it from there to work with families and the student, because we are going to come at this from a vantage point of education. Our goal is to educate our children as to what was appropriate, what was inappropriate, how do we now move forward and make sure that whatever happened that was inappropriate does not happen again. Employee violations, again, are then handled in accordance with the district policy and our contracts and agreements, negotiated agreements. The rights, the district retains the right to access files, emails that are created and stored on district accounts. They are our accounts provided to our students. They are our accounts provided to our staff. Please, we want you to use them, but as I go back to that same kind of soundbite, use school accounts for school work, and everything's fine. There are no questions about that. When these things start to bring in either files that are inappropriate on our network, or when there seems to be concerning materials that come through our domain, then we have to act. We have to move into motion and make sure that we're working with families, with students, with staff members to get them the supports they need, and that also then to follow up and make sure that they understand that what they're doing is not appropriate and they need to change behaviors. Educational materials and products created are subject to freedom of speech guidelines similarly as they are in print materials. I know that was quick, but really my goal was to get to questions, to make sure that I answered any questions you may have, and really just highlight those key points of school device, school account, school work.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. James. Are there any questions from board members? Dana?
Thank you so much for your presentation. Always learn a little something. So Can you give some examples of some of the sites that you block? I know you mentioned the museum thing, but like, can you give examples of
So-
other entertainment things that you might?
Understood. And I think, so yes, Dana, I can. I don't know that I want to go too far into specifics other than I'll give a very shocking one that I was surprised by of PBS Kids is blocked. It's then been worked around for certain ones, but it's blocked because Super Y, which is a wonderful show for a 4-year-old, is entertainment, and it falls in the entertainment category. So it's really this whole category item, and it's tough to say the internet identifies what categories is, and I say the internet because it's a vague group of people giving feedback on mass sources that tag these categories. So to say exactly which one this is or is not is challenging. The big one that I think everybody probably wants to talk about, so I'm just going to go there, is YouTube. While there's a fair amount of content on YouTube that is inappropriate for students in school, there is a much larger amount of content that is absolutely appropriate. It is the platform where we can post videos to and ensure that we are meeting compliance with subtitles, that we're meeting all of the compliance for student safety. So it is the outlet there that also provides a fair amount of education. It is one that not only our district, but the tech directors throughout the state were convinced needed to be in place for education. And I can say that from working with them pretty closely in the past few months, that while I understand the concerns that some of our parents have and that what our students are working through, we need to work together on solving kind of how to support our students when they're doing the things that they're not supposed to be doing. YouTube has a place for schoolwork. The Khan Academy is available through YouTube. You know, there's a far greater number of sites on there that are valuable and we need to use. And so that's the one I think. I'm sorry if I'm presuming.
Yeah, so that's where I wanted to ask.
But at the same time, that is the big site where there's no way to block all the bad without also blocking the good. And that's where we run into problems with filtering. And that's why we always try to come at this really from an educational point of view of what is the educational value of what you're doing, of should this be done in the classroom, would your parent want you to do this, would your teacher want you to do this? You know, if the answers to all of those are yes, then what you're watching on YouTube is fine. If the answers to those, any one of those is no, then stop doing that and let's move on to the next thing. And that's hard. It's hard for kids. We get that. But we'll work with you to try to get that through and to help in any way that we can. If it's becoming an issue, I know the other big topic that comes up with that is, but my kid's watching it all night long. Well, the district Chromebooks shut off at 11, but the other part of that is please, this is where we can help you set up on your router at home. You can take that device with you. It is your device when it comes home. So have whatever arrangements you want to make with your child so that they can get their schoolwork done, but also that can be in the parameters that you see as a parent are the best ones to make. Please take those steps and we will support you in any way that we can.
Thank you. Lloyd?
Actually, along the same lines in terms of it's like social media sites on in the district, like what's blocked, what's
Sure.
available and whatnot.
Social media is a category that we block based on the usage of the district for Twitter and classrooms for Twitter and the different ways that's been used. That is allowed on our network, but the vast majority of social media sites are blocked because we block the category.
And then just one more on like cyber attacks for students. Do you see students getting phishing or scams in their emails, and how has that been, I guess, addressed with students? I'm like, you mentioned curriculum. I'm just wondering if there's any other ways or methods to prevent that from going
Sure.
forward. Yep.
Sure. The first thing that we do is our K-5s. There is no external email, right? So there's no email coming in or out of our network to a K-5 student, pre-K-5 student. None of that would be going there. So that's the first part of, if a phishing scam is coming in, it's coming in externally. We're not sending real phishing emails ourselves. We do send fake ones. But those would not be going to our student body at any level like that. With our 612s, where external email is an opportunity, and actually, excuse me, it's our 912s where external email is. It's our 6/8s that it's still internal, but now with teachers and staff and working in a different environment. we've communicated out what phishing is. We've communicated out the process in Google to go ahead and mark messages as phishing or mark them as spam. Those steps will help the AI learn what phishing messages are and what spam is, and that will help overall trim up spam that's coming in. But based on an internet mail provider, there is no way to be 100% phish-free. That it will get through. So again, we have to go back to education. We have to work with our teachers in the classrooms, and we have to make sure that students understand that when something doesn't look right, there's got to be another way to verify and check that source. That's good practice outside of email. That's just good practice for working with information. So again, all of those things start to tie together as to how we really approach educating our students on just good practices.
And then one last thing, because you mentioned that student accounts. Is there a point when, say, I'm thinking seniors graduate, and do they have access to that account, or when someone leaves the school? I was just curious about that.
Sure, we will actually be sending out very soon the information for seniors and anybody leaving the district at the end of this school year, how to maintain or take any files that they would need out of their Google Drive. But those accounts are disabled, and I want to be clear on that. They are disabled so that the information is still accessible for a certain amount of time that we have to hold on to it, but that student no longer has access to it. And I believe our date for that this year is moved up to July 5th, that we will be turning off access to any student who has graduated or left the district at the end of the school year.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Shweta?
Hi, I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about the process, that if there's any concerns about student mental health that come up across their account, what's the process for flagging it? How do you notify administration? And then the parents, how are they notified?
Sure, sure. So we use a third-party vendor called Gaggle. Gaggle has access to our students' Google Drives, emails, and it's an AI that searches for any kind of concerning material. And it will pick up anything. So for example, there have been times where I've gotten Romeo and Juliet quotes shoved over to me because all of a sudden star-crossed lovers are committing, are having issues. So sometimes you have to then filter through these. The way that works is once that's picked up, Gaggle will send an email, and if it's seen as a high priority or needs immediate attention, it will start texting and calling administrators in the building as well as at the district level. So that if it's anything that is urgent, has a date attached to it, has a plan attached to it, has a method attached to it, we're going to get a call. That call is going to be then immediately investigated, immediately look through the document, work to reach out to the family, work to reach out to local authorities if need be, and make sure that we're providing as many supports as we can to ensure that nothing extends from that. My experience as an assistant principal with this has been, I was leery about it when it came on board here. I thought this was going to be a huge influx, and I was worried. You make one phone call where you're sharing with a parent that there's an issue that they weren't aware about, and now they are, and can do something to help their child. And I will take the Romeo and Juliet stories every day of the week to make sure that we're making that one call that needed to happen. So again, this goes back to just, it checks in real time. We get things immediately and throughout. And when we don't get them immediately, there's a process that we follow up with that vendor to investigate why didn't this flag, and they shift their system to adjust so that it would flag us more readily.
Liz?
Can you just also describe for us how student infractions are handled with the disciplinary code, and at which point are parents notified?
Sure. So similarly, anything that would be, damage to a device, or there's students have gone ahead and there's a copying incident or abused the technology by searching, for things they shouldn't have and pulling that into the classroom. That's either identified by the teacher, the technician, or a network techs. Once those reports come in through our team, we follow up with administration, and administration then works with the student and then the family, depending on the infraction, depending on the incident. Whether it's the teacher about cheating, to the administrator, to the family, and then we provide the tech support of what files did they access, what searches did they do, that sort of thing. Or if it's something like a broken screen, or the keyboard has had all the keys plucked out of it. You know, this was not just a chance encounter with something that ripped your keys out. You know, we would report that information to administration. They would meet with the child and work with the family. Because students aren't just creating damage, they're not just, you know, copying because they wanted to copy. There's an issue there, there's something going on. The teacher has probably a better idea of it, the administrator, the counselor may, and they all then work in as a group of support to work with the family. Often in those cases, as an assistant principal, I saw that where mom and dad or whoever, the guardian knew something was going on, something wasn't right. And this was just an outlet of that, and we worked with each other to really, okay, address the issue. You can't be destroying the Chromebook, but on the other end of that, so how can we help and what can we do is often the follow-up and really the direction those go.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Pooja?
Just to go back to Gaggle for one second. So Gaggle would work, just to clarify, Gaggle would work if a student was accessing their student account on a personal device.
So Gaggle monitors their student Google Drive, their student email, and accounts that are within the school domain. It has faster access to the school device, but it still has access to those accounts when used on personal devices. Yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any other questions? Actually, I do have one question. I know you were talking about the filters, and nowadays there's so many new sites that keep coming up, and sometimes just keeping up with what's the new trend or what's the new site. How is the department, or how are you all keeping track of those trends, right? Which are the sites that are coming up? Which are the ones that are troublesome, or the ones that you need to maybe filter out because it's constantly changing, I'm sure?
Great question. And that is the real reason that people move to a category filtering type setup, right? That as those sites evolve, as they come up, really it is based on categories that the sites are tagged with in their metadata that filter them out. Specifically, I'll go down the Google site route, right? We have a zero trust policy for Google sites. We do not allow Google sites on our domain to be viewed unless we have specifically allowed that Google site, because anybody in the world can set up a Google site. And so if you go there, if we just let Google sites be available, then you would get information from anybody in the world, and that's just not appropriate. So most of this is done through the category filtering, entertainment, sales, shopping, violence, you know, the big ones. But then the follow-up to that is, if there's a valuable Google site out there that you are aware of, or that you've created, or that you want students to create, we can open that up for availability, and we can work with you to make sure that access is there.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Any more questions? Thank you, Mr. James. Really appreciate the presentation. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go to a public comment just for a special opportunity for public comment just on this policy 2361 for acceptable use of computer networks, computers, and resources. So the board invites thoughts and reactions on policy 2361 from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with board policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Do we have any public comments just on this policy 2361? Okay.
Hi, my name is Avanti Handa from 3 Chandler Court, Plainsboro. I'd like to start off by saying thank you for everything you do to protect our children. I think we rely on you in a very big part, so thank you for that, because it's impossible for us to monitor what they're really doing most of the time. But so I have a question, and this is a situation we faced a few times where our daughter's forgotten her phone at home, and you know, there's something she needed to communicate to us or we needed to communicate to her. And so we had to either call the school or she had to call us via the school office. So my question is that Gmail, I believe, is not accessible via the school device. So, and on her school email, there's no way she can send an email to her parents. So my question is there a way to maybe have maybe one or two authorized users, I mean, as in like parents, that the child and the parent can communicate with each other over the school email through her school account, which she isn't able to do at the moment. So that's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments to policies 2361? Okay. All right. Hearing none, I will close the public comment portion of on policy 2361. All right, so we will adjourn the special public hearing on policy 2361, acceptable use of computer networks, computers, and resources. So now I'll turn to the first opportunity for public comments. The board invites thoughts and reactions on agenda items and items of concern from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 60 minutes. Are there any public comments?
Starry greetings. It's nighttime, Makaran Bidway, Princeton, New Jersey. This Friday I found out, I don't know what the correct word is, but I like to use the word skeleton with label WWPME. Like last time I brought another one with the label WWPEF, the Education Foundation. So this one is the Mathematics Expo. Both of these had their virtual programs last time in 2022 April, and they have disappeared. This Math Expo, it was run by kids, and they were using high school SAT. For 3rd to 8th grade kids, was run by high school kids, which created a lot of attraction and love for math. It was like a family fest. Parents used to sit in the auditorium. I have sent them emails many times. They would respond by nightfall. This time I sent them an email several days ago. I have no response. Their website is down. What's going on? Why are these beautiful things getting disappeared? This connects us. We cannot, this district is not possibly continuing if we do not find out the reason behind it. One reason I am suspecting, based on what the superintendent told us last time, is that all these organizations are outside and they need permission to use school facilities. Is the permission being withdrawn, or are we asking them to pay? And these kids, I don't think they have money that they can pay. They used to charge like $10 to run the expo contests, and my daughters have picked up beautiful math puzzles and toys every time they won there, either for winning or for participating. So that's my concern right now. The other concern is, I know 2 or 3 of you are attorneys, but there is an attorney here. Any definition of due diligence involves timeliness. I do not see any timeliness in this letter start or time shift campaign here or implementation, which I don't even know if we are implementing. There is a nice article today in Times, New York Times, which talks about the importance of breakfast, and skipping it is not a good idea. And why are we subjecting our kids indefinitely to skip breakfast, the adolescents particularly? That's my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Please.
Hi, my name is Zishan Sharif. I'm a high school student at High School North. I live in West Windsor. So this is regarding policy 0261. I'm sorry, I meant to come up earlier, but I momentarily forgot what I was going to say. But it's specifically about the use of ChatGPT within schools. I know there's like kind of discussion on that. I've heard that there's been discussion on how teachers can use ChatGPT in order to increase their performance. But in regards of acceptable use of computers within school, I just wanted to know what the district policy was regarding ChatGPT for students, because I know there's a lot of concern over ChatGPT for English assignments, history assignments. I've seen a little bit of it used within schools for writing speeches or writing minor like homework assignments, and in certain cases I've seen it used for larger assignments, which may be cause for concern. So I was just wondering if there was any steps the district was taking in order to reduce the amount of cheating that students were doing, or reducing the usage of ChatGPT within these school assignments.
Are there any other public comments? Okay. All right, hearing none, I will close this first opportunity for public comments.
Good evening. To our student speaker with respect to questions regarding the acceptable use policy about ChatGPT. The administration, when we first started hearing about the utilization, the different versions of, we made the determination not to block ChatGPT, but to allow it to be utilized as a tool. But that does require a different type of thinking with respect to training for administration, training for staff, gaining comfort and knowledge with the tool and the platform. So we have worked to set up training in the next, I believe it was being moved to the summer, but there'll be a summer training opportunity for administrators, all district administrators on ChatGPT, and they'll be rolling out further training to teachers next school year about ways in which the tool can be used. People are already dabbling with and utilizing it. Your point's well taken that the potential for cheating and the potential for utilization by students could be used, but this technology is not going away. So we're going to need to learn how to work with the technology and learn how to teach students the acceptable ways to use it, as well as the tools that are now out there to detect if ChatGPT is used. A lot of individuals, even within the administration, are now starting to dabble with how do I use ChatGPT with respect to writing memos. There's platforms for teachers to learn how to write worksheets, test bank questions, and everything. We've even heard just this evening about how Stanford University, and this is in a prior meeting, but how Stanford is using it to train teacher candidates or administrative candidates with AI-based students in classrooms. So this technology is only going to increase, not decrease. So we're going to need to all collectively learn in real time how to work with it. And to, as Mr. James would say if he was here, to educate students about the appropriate utilization of it if they misuse it. So we're going to have to step into it. It's a new technology for all of us, at least for many of us. With respect to the speculation that somehow the district is charging student groups to somehow conspire and meddle with their abilities to perform, that's just complete nonsense. As I mentioned at the last board meeting, there are certain organizations that run either through or outside of the district. So the Ed Foundation is was a partnership organization for many years, run by outside community groups that included parents, alumni, individuals that may have retired from the district after much effort to try to keep that program going. They ultimately made a determination as an outside entity, working with their own attorney and their own accountant to shut the organization down. That was not a decision that the district was a party to or allowed to make an informed decision to. They were an amazing organization for many years, did incredible work raising grant dollars that benefited our students. That organization chose to shut down. That's outside of our control. With groups like the WWPME, that was run, I believe the specific group was the South Math Club, but these are student-run clubs. student-run clubs run through each building. We have hundreds of student-run clubs, and based on the students that are members of a club year to year, that organization's desire and interests may shift. One group of students may want to dedicate themselves to an expo for a certain number of years with a certain cohort of students, but as membership shifts, they may not want to continue that with a new cohort of students. That is part of the beauty of student-run clubs, that the students take on personalities of the membership. We allow student-run clubs under certain conditions that go through the student council in a very informed vetting process. They work outside of official advisors, but they work in conjunction with the building administrators, so there's still oversight, and there's certain rules that govern that. So this idea that somehow we're blocking student voice versus embracing student voice, because a group of students chose to run an expo for mathematics for a certain number of years, but then it wasn't continued moving forward based on a particular group of students' interests, desires, whatnot. So again, it's, it's not some kind of grand conspiracy theory that the district's blocking student voice and doing away with mathematics. What it is honoring students' path and their interest in promoting something that then ultimately a group of students chose not to offer it year over year, and it just went away. So that's what I have to say about WWPME.
Thank you, Dr. Underhold. Okay, so we don't have any committee reports tonight, so we will go then to the voting portion of our meeting. Can I have a motion for administration items 1 through 6? Dana and Liz. Any questions or comments? Chris?
Okay, we'll start with the sponsor.
Yes.
Ms. Chenier.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Juliana.
Yes. All right, go to curriculum. Can I have a motion for item 1 on the curriculum? Chloe and Pooja, any questions or comments? Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Chenier.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes.
Ms. Bonson.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going now to finance items 1 through 18, plus the blue addendum. Can I have a motion for those items? Louisa and Shweta. Any questions or comments? Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonson.
Yes.
Ms. Chenier.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. We now turn to personnel items. Can I have a motion for personnel items 1 and 2, plus the green and pink addendum? Robin and Graylin, any questions or comments?
Okay. I'm going to be talking about item 2, which is the collective negotiations agreement. I'm pleased to announce that the West Windsor-Plainsboro Regional School District Board of Education has reached an agreement for a successor collective negotiations agreement with the WWP Education Association, WWPEA. The agreement covers 4 years, the 2023-2024 school year through the 2026 through 2027 school year. The WWPEA is the association that represents our teachers and all other employees who hold certificated non-supervisory positions. The new contract will be voted on right now by the board. Last week, the WWPEA had a membership meeting and overwhelmingly voted to ratify the new agreement. The terms provide for the following salary increases: 3.7% increase for the 2023-2024 school year, 3.8% increase for the 2024-2025 school year, 3.9% increase for the 2025-26 school year, and a 3.95% increase for the 2026-2027 school year. These increases will ensure we remain competitive and will allow us to continue to attract and retain the very best teaching staff. These significant salary increases are in part funded by sensible, mutually agreed to changes in health insurance and retirement provisions. The agreement also creates administrative efficiencies for payroll and scheduling flexibilities in the middle schools. So I recommend that my board colleagues vote to ratify the agreement. It is good for the students, staff, and the larger school community. So thank you.
Thank you, Dana. Chris?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Krug.
Yes.
Ms. Maliga.
Yes.
Ms. Shetty.
Yes, but I abstain from number 2.
Ms. Zovich.
Yes.
Ms. Bonson.
Yes.
Ms. Chanera.
Yes.
Ms. Ho.
Yes.
Ms. McEwen.
Yes.
Ms. Juliana.
Yes. Okay, also, we voted tonight on some retirements, so I'd like to acknowledge those retirements. We have Albert Paulson, from our social studies teacher, retiring after 24 years in the district, and Elizabeth Kaufman, Maurice Hawk secretary, retiring after 25 years in the district. So I want to thank you for your years of service and dedication to the district, and of course, we wish you well in your retirement. So, thank you. All right, so we don't have any minutes to approve tonight, so we now go to board liaison reports. Lena?
As the Board of Education liaison to the New Jersey School Boards Association and the president of the Mercer County School Board Association, I'd like to share some highlights from the recent Mercer County School Board Association meeting. Last Wednesday, May 3rd, the Mercer County School Board Association held its last meeting of the school year at Hightstown High School. At this meeting, the featured speaker was the Mercer County Clerk, Paula Salami Cavello. Ms. Cavello addressed the topic of ballot design and construction for the Mercer County ballot and answered board member questions on this topic. As is the regular custom at these county meetings, we also got a legislative and field services update. We also learned about the increase to the NJSBA dues for the coming year after 14 years with no increases. For the next school year, I have been appointed the Mercer County School Board Association Vice President, and also at this meeting, Louisa Ho and I were recognized for our longtime WWP School Board service. This past Friday evening, May 5th, I attended the NJSBA Board of Directors meeting as the Mercer County voting representative. At this meeting, the executive director and president presented several topics, including an update on the fall workshop. The Board of Directors reviewed the NJSBA's Executive Director's evaluation for this past year and approved his goals for the next year, including launching a new, engaging, and hopefully more user-friendly website. This Saturday, May 13th, I will attend the twice-a-year NJSBA Delegate Assembly as WWP's voting delegate. There are 5 legislative resolutions being presented and voted on at this assembly. In addition, members will be voting on new NJSBA officers, each for a 2-year term. And finally, I had the opportunity, along with Louisa Ho and Liz Chanera, to attend Plainsboro's Founders Day this past Saturday. Many community members attended, and there were many local vendors, activities, games, and activities available to the attendees. It was a really lovely event.
Thank you, Dana, and congratulations to you and Louisa on the recognition. Any other liaison reports? Liz?
With regard to the PTSAs, I just wanted to mention that, they continue to work so hard to do different types of events and programs for the school community of both towns. And it's really impressive to see how much effort they put into this behind the scenes and with gaining support of local community businesses and vendors, which is also a win-win to support small businesses. So we really appreciate all the work. Aloy and I, are very happy to be representatives.
Thank you, Liz. Any other liaison reports? Okay. Any new business? Okay, that takes us to the second opportunity for public comments. The board invites comments from members of our community who are present. Each participant is asked to give his or her name and address prior to making a statement, which will be limited to 3 minutes in accordance with Board Policy 0167. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. This public comment period shall be limited to 15 minutes. Any public comments?
Static greetings, Makaran Bidwai, Princeton, New Jersey. I am worried what the superintendent said, that there is a turnover of heads, and therefore the Math Expo kids who are running that, the club is not there anymore. This is a bigger problem of brain drain. Last time you mentioned that there is nobody to run the Education Foundation. We know there is nobody to run for the Board of Education. So there is a flight of parents, but there is a brain drain. How can we justify all this? It's all connected. If we have good students, good parents, somebody will run for the board, somebody will do the math expo, somebody will do the Education Foundation. Now we have none of the three things happening, and I'm sure three people who are about to run again, I don't know what their plan is, but if they run, they will return. So I want to bring to your attention now that I was here in the organization meeting, and I made a specific request to shrink the board to 5 members. I believe the deadline is July 31st, which is the deadline for nomination. I believe it has to go on the ballot. It can be done. The superintendent said it's in the bylaws and we can't change it. That's not true. New Jersey law requires between 3 and 13 board members in any school district which is not appointed by the mayor. Right? This is not appointed by the mayor, it goes in general elections. So 5 is a good number because we can't find 9 people, 9 new faces each time. And then the corresponding thing was the term limits. We need to impose some term limits. Look what's going on in Congress. They're fighting and running the country into a ditch. I don't know if it will end or not because one of the congressperson will be kicked out. He was indicated today. So that makes the Republicans' job even more difficult. I don't want to go into that politics. But all I'm saying is, down from the higher level to the lower level, we have a problem of term limits. Why can't we change that? We are a school district. We need to set an example here that we don't want to come back. We want to allow new faces to take over this charge. And last but not the least, I am very circumspect about this whole time shift thing. Right in this corner, the superintendent told me that he won't change, he won't reduce 50 minutes of any school schedule without reducing 50 minutes, shortening the school duration. We cannot do this. So can the superintendent come on camera and say the same thing he said to me, that he won't reduce school duration by 50 minutes, or he will? You have to compromise, otherwise you can't get this done. Whether you do it this September or next September, or never do it, then it's a different story. Thank you.
Are there any other public comments?
So I have 2 things to talk about. Are the speakers only facing you? Because it sounds like the mic is not working, but I have a teacher voice, so we can always get that. The first thing I wanted
So Debbie,
to talk
I'm
about.
sorry. I know we know you, but can you say
I'm
your
sorry.
name? Yeah, that's
Debbie
okay.
Bear, sorry,
Yeah.
Debbie Bear, teacher in the district and chief negotiator for the contract. So I'm going to talk about that, but I would also like to thank you as a board. I think you make great decisions. You are obviously very thoughtful, and I appreciate the time that you volunteer to come in. And it is obvious that you are well informed about the issues. And my mother was on the school board here when I was a little girl, and it was in the 70s. And I appreciate your work because I know wholeheartedly how many hours it takes and how much reading you have to do and how much background has to go into all of the decisions that you make. And I'm very confident as a member of the faculty that you are doing a wonderful job. As is our superintendent, who is also thoughtful and a researcher and a learner himself. Now, what I really came up to talk about was the collective bargaining agreement that we have. I appreciate your support wholeheartedly for the agreement. I think that because we started with a theme of attracting and retaining teachers, we started at the right point, which is, of course, focused on students and what will be best for students. Because the more teachers we can attract, the better teachers we can attract and then retain, the more stability we create in our school district. And that has been something that historically has been true. People stay here for decades once they get a job here, and then, much to our chagrin, they retire after 25 or 35 or 44 years. So I want to thank you for that, because I think not only is the contract a good length, the 4 years creates stability, but it also shows the county how you can do it. And I'm always in favor. Dave and I worked together when he first became the superintendent, and I was the president of the association. And what we talked about was making sure that this is a district that's always in the lead and showing other people how to do it. We have locals in Mercer County who have gone a year without a contract. That's a very disrespectful message to send. It's an extremely respectful message to have a contract signed, sealed, and voted on before spring break. You know, so we felt respected by that, and I think it showed a lot to the other school districts in the county. First of all, it's possible, and secondly, it's necessary if you want to keep your faculty feeling respected. So I appreciate that, and I look forward to doing all the editing now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi guys, I'm Chandrika Stevenson. I'm the president of the WWPEA. I'm not going to speak about the contract because we just heard so wonderfully about it, but I just wanted to say thank you to our teachers for all that they do in our district. I grew up in this district as well, so lifelonger, like I've been here for a while, and I will probably end up here. Don't see myself leaving, so I'm one of those people we're retaining. So I just wanted to say every day our teachers work tirelessly to educate and inspire the next generation. We all know the vital role that our educators play in the lives of our students. They are not only responsible for their academic development, but also nurturing their social and emotional growth. They spend countless hours preparing lesson plans, grading papers, and engaging with students in and out of the classroom. They provide guidance, support, and encouragement to our students, helping them to grow into successful, responsible, and compassionate adults. The WWPEA is also so thankful to partner and collaborate with administration, central office staff, the Board of Education, and parents, which are essential to the success of our students in our community. And I'm so proud to be the president of the association. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Good evening all. Milind Manurkar, 15 Slayback Drive, West Windsor. So I just wanted to bring up the continuation of our discussion from the previous meeting where a committee would be formed to start to discuss the late start of the school. So I'm just wondering, is there an update? Because I know there's one meeting scheduled sometime this month, I remember, 3rd week of May or something like that, right? So is the committee already being formed, or if not, then is that still in process? And second thing is, if you get more applicants who are interested to be part of the committee from the parents, what's the criteria to select or filter out and who to onboard and who not to be a part of the committee? Is there a thought process being given around that on what would be the criteria to be in the committee? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Hi, it's Ishan Sharif, High School North, West Windsor. So this is a bit more specific to High School North itself, but as you may or may not know, there's construction going on within High School North. I don't know the exact details. I just know that it's been getting a little disruptive, especially in the classes that are right above the construction location. I've heard from my physics teacher that they're drilling some sort of ventilation shaft for the new, what's it called, like the cooking classrooms, life skills classrooms, right? And this construction is right below the physics break room, room 215, room 213. So it's a bit disruptive during classes, especially during tests, for example, when you just hear these loud drilling noises and like just construction noises while we're trying to study. So I was wondering if there was any way that this construction could happen more outside of school hours, if that was possible, or in a way that doesn't disrupt education in those classrooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Okay.
Hello again, everyone. Avanti Handa, Plainsboro. So the Board of Education meetings have a structure where we have a closed session and an open session, but the committee meetings don't have that structure. I'd like to request that the committee meetings to also have a similar closed and open session. This will provide the community members an opportunity to understand and hopefully provide early feedback on public items that impact their children before they are voted in by the board members and become policy. This was actually followed in the past, but it was discontinued for some reason. I'd like to understand from the Board of Education members as to when and why the policy to have closed sessions for committee meetings was adopted, and what can we do to change it, considering that most of the topics that are discussed and deliberated at committee meetings are about our children's education and well-being. The transparency will go a long way in keeping in line with the district's tradition and stated goal of working with the community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. All right, so with that, we will close the second opportunity for public comments.
I'll take a couple of responses. First, I'm so grateful for all the public comments. I appreciate everyone. I'm thrilled with the four-year agreement, and it's nice that it's being ratified and approved for Teacher Appreciation Week. So always glad to partner with our WWPEA colleagues. With respect to, where do I even begin? Let's start with our student. With respect to high school north construction, just construction in general and the process. I did see Dr. Cover speak with the gentleman, so I'm sure there'll be a follow-up. But just so the board and the public knows, every week we have a construction meeting with the contractors, with the district representatives, administration from the building and from the district, as well as from our construction management team, building and grounds, and the contractor themselves. And we have their coordination meetings. They are able to have conversations about everything from noise to test schedules to when power needs to be turned off and the coordination of days the district's off and whatnot, spring break, sports, athletics, and thinking about through all the nuances. As we've been engaged in a very aggressive referendum over the past 4 years now of construction, it's inevitable that when you have construction inside a building, at North it happens to be the culinary space, which is the area I believe we're talking about here, but also the library. And so the culinary space and the library, in this case, have connection through the ductwork system. And so anytime you work with HVAC ducts and you have drilling, there's going to be reverberation and noise will then travel. So it's inevitable that when you have internal construction inside the building, you're going to have more noise. And we work to mitigate that, but we're never going to be able to eliminate that. So there will be, sometimes there will be moments of disruption. But again, when we work with the teachers and the teachers know to go to the administration, should they need to be thinking through things like AP testing, for instance, and thinking through the noise impacts there. So really the coordination really has to happen at the building level because it's impossible for the contractor or administrators or the architect to know the actual impact of the building. But we've successfully navigated this for 2 years inside a community, and we've put 5 additions on during this last 4 years. So we should be able to work to coordinate this. But again, there will be noise when you have construction. With respect to late start committees, Dr. McDonald worked to set and charge a late start committee. That committee is formed. They do have a set meeting schedule, and he does have a meeting scheduled for this month. So there may be opportunities down the road for opportunities for additional public feedback that I'm going to leave to Dr. McDonald and the committee to determine. as is his charge from me and the board. Again, that's something to be determined about how additional public feedback might be solicited. With respect to closed session, with respect to committee meetings by bylaw are closed. They're board work meetings. They're work sessions for the Board of Education. I've been here 14 years. They've been closed for 14 years, so I don't have history beyond that. There is no recommendation for members of the board to consider a change to the bylaw. That would be the only way for that to be considered. I'm going to try to make this last comment fast because it's halftime of the Sixers game and they're winning. But with respect to brain drain, it's disrespectful to our community, our students, and our parents to suggest that we have a brain drain going on in WWP. We have lots of recommendations. We should have a late start, but we shouldn't consider, we should just drop 50 minutes. We've been told that. I appreciate the recommendation. For parents to understand, and there's a lot of middle school parents that have been coming to meetings lately, that would mean your kids would have 5 credits less per, or one less class a day, right? So you're gonna have not as many credits, which means not as much math, or science, or world language, or arts, like orchestra, because you would have to have less classes every year for 4 years, which means you would take 6 classes instead of 7, because one of the class, remember, is a study hall. So you would go from an 8-period schedule, 7 classes in a study hall, to 6 classes in a study hall, which means you would ultimately lose 20 credits, which means when you have to fit in the core required classes set forth by the state of New Jersey and the Board of Education, when you hit your senior year, you're going to lose the 4th, like a 5th math, or a 4th math, or a 4th science, in order to, or you're going to lose orchestra, or you're going to lose opportunities for your kids. So that's not going to happen. So when I said in the corner over there, and I'll go right on record to say in WWP, in no way will parents give up advanced physics for seniors. In WWP, parents will not give up AP classes in junior and senior year for their students. In no way, in no reality will that ever happen here. So stop with ridiculous recommendation. It will never happen. With respect to dropping the board from 9 to 5, where does that come from? It's like literally plucked. Why not 7? Why not go to 13 and have proportional voting? Why not? The board made a determination years ago when we became a district, and then ultimately we made a determination to have it by voting split 5-4 between the 2 communities when WW was formed, based on this idea of the citizenship and the amount of population per township, that we would have a 5-4 vote, to have a 5-4 board. We could have a 4-3 board, we could have a 3-2 board, we could have a 2-1 board. Why a 5? This idea that less people vote, every year I'm here, there's contested elections, with the exception of the COVID years, where a lot of folks just pulled back. Again, disrespectful to our community to suggest there's a brain drain. And then let's go back to what I said about the kids. Never did I say that we were discouraging, or never did I say that kids in our student-run clubs, our students in our student-run clubs, get to choose a pathway of how they want that club to operate and what they want their club experience to be. Students several years ago at High School South Math Club chose to do a math expo. I can't force them to continue that. If the student-run club chooses to discontinue that pathway, that doesn't mean there's a brain drain. That means the kids' interests shifted, or their time and ability to do that expo. Maybe they wanted to do more advanced tutoring. Maybe they wanted to do, things shifted throughout the pandemic. So this idea that there's a brain drain dishonors our students. And I'm not going to sit here and let you just throw lob after lob, disrespecting our school community, our Board of Education, now our students. It's just ridiculous. Halftime is over. Wish you all a great evening. And I look forward to seeing you at the May 23rd board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Adderhold. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Liz and Loy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.